Hallo und willkommen hier bei SillyConBread zu einer weiteren Folge von Forgotten City. Wir sind hier stehen geblieben bei Kabasch, der hier ein bisschen seine, ja, wie soll man sagen, seine Doppelmoral hier ausspielen lassen wollte, weil er eine Tafel gefunden hat, die ihm überhaupt nicht getaugt hat und er sie in die ägyptische Unterwelt geschmissen hat. Da unten. Und ich glaube, wir gehen jetzt da rein und holen sie uns. Und los. Sumerische. Eine Tafel mit der Inschrift Nergal. Droben der König in Kuniform. Was auch immer. So. Nun die Frage. Alle 4 Tafeln zum Obelisken zurückbringen. Habe ich schon alle 4? Habe ich schon alle 4? Sumerische, ägyptische, griechische, noch römische. Okay, wo habe ich die römische her? Das weiß ich nicht. Aber wir bewegen uns hier erstmal raus. Okay, hier ist gleich der Kleidungsstil auch ein bisschen anders. Was war das? Was war das? Vogelkopf. Eine alte sumerische Statue eines Mannes mit dem Kopf eines Vogels. Vielleicht ist dies Kumutabal, der Mann mit einem Vogelkopfschmuck, den Rufius sah, als er am Fluss erwachte. Wie gesagt, jeder hat hier irgendwie eine andere Vorstellung oder hat einen anderen Gott gesehen. Hi. Hi. Okay. Ich zucke jetzt einfach meinen Bogen und wir schauen. Ah, lang. Fremdling, beherzigt die letzten Worte von Namkusu. Seid Zeuge der Konsequenzen, die wir erfuhren und betrauert uns. Wir taten unser Bestes, um so zu leben, wie es die Götter befahlen. Wir pflanzten und ernteten gemeinsam, wir teilten Brot und Bier. Wir nahmen Neuankömmlinge mit offenen Armen auf, als gehörten sie zur Familie, aber mit jedem Neuankömmling entfremdeten wir uns und immer mehr voneinander. Und bald schon war es, als würden wir uns kaum kennen, als jegliche Nähe zwischen uns verloren gegangen war. Pflanzten meine Brüder und Schwestern nur noch für sich selbst und aßen, so ja, natürlich, aßen und tranken allein und dort, in dem leeren Raum zwischen uns, begann die Sünde, Wurzeln zu schlagen. Nergals Wächter sind erwacht und stürmen auf unsere Barrikaden zu, lernt aus unserem Unglück wahrscheinlich. Aus unserem Unglück. Okay. Ah, ich will sie mitnehmen. So. Versuchen wir uns hier rauszuschlagen. Bin auf die Falle getreten. Komm, wir rennen jetzt ein bisschen hier durch, bevor hier wieder so Viecher kommen. Ja, nein, ich trete nicht auf die Falle. Diesmal nicht. Okay. Da lang.
When I told you that you would not find a way back up, that was not a prediction. That was a promise. You will die here.
Ja, was will er denn? Es gibt keinen Grund.
I disagree. I warned you against coming down here, against perpetuating this sacrilege, but you persisted. You have undermined and dishonored the true God of the underworld. How did you think this would end, if not with bloodshed?
Ja, Gott. Hört mich einfach doch mal an.
Very well, I will listen. But if I sense deception, or if you further insult my gods, I will carry out my threat. So tell me, why should I let you live after you salvaged this instrument of blasphemy?
Da, diese Doppelmoral, die ich erzählt habe. Wenn etwas durch die Wahrheit zerstört werden kann, dann soll es auch durch die Wahrheit zerstört werden. Hä? Okay. Es ist keine Schande, auf einem Werk von Menschen aufzubauen, die für euch gelebt haben. Oh, das kann ich nicht sagen, glaube ich. Ich möchte doch bloß zurücklegen.
Why? To what end?
Die goldene Regel. Ja.
But why? What business could you have with Osiris?
Ich werde ihn zur goldenen Regel befragen. Ich werde fordern, dass er alle gehen lässt. Ja, oder?
Blasphemous fool! You have sealed your own fate.
Wartet, okay, ja. Goldene Regel.
Good. I welcome it. You see, the philosopher told me that each time it breaks, Osiris bellows with rage, and his voice shakes the very foundations of the earth. I can only hope one more tremor will lay waste to this fragile place once and for all, and you along with it.
Ja, okay.
The many shall suffer.
Oh, aber ich habe die Tafeln. Lauft! Aber ich bin schon da, oder? Und hoch, und hoch. Wo bin ich hier? Wo bin ich hier? Uiuiui. Ah, ich muss da zurück. Ah, ich bin hier. Ich war von der anderen Seite verschlossen. Hier raus. Hallo Philosoph. Nee, wo ist der Philosoph? Hier war. Hier war. Oh, es ist ein langer Weg. Es ist ein langer Weg. Aber ich habe alle Tafeln. Das war, was ich wollte. Lauf! Okay, es lädt. Ach. Krawasch. Es gibt hier echt schon ein paar Leute, die ich schon gefressen habe. Oh, weg hier. Oh, nicht schießen, bitte. Ausgewichen. Okay. Auch ausweichen. Alles schön ausweichen. Ah. Ja, das hast du jetzt gemacht noch, oder? Sentius. Das war ja der Plotfist vom letzten Mal. Das war ja richtig. So, jetzt sind wir wieder hier. So, jetzt kannst du alles erledigen. Rette sie alle.
Salve, friend.
Okay. Erledige ein bisschen was für mich. Ja, Julia, Rufius, Fabia, Aleolus und Lauf. So. Bitte geht es ja darum, die Götter um Hilfe zu flehen. Weiß ich nicht, ist es das? Oder ist es... Wir gehen jetzt zum Obelisken. Salve, Rufius. Geht's bald wieder gut? Okay. Und was? Du bist noch hier? Wahrscheinlich wartet er auf einen Valerius. So. Hier im Tempel irgendwo. Hier ist er. Verschlossen. Das ist der Obelisk. Okay. Ah, hier sind wir richtig. Ja. Gehen wir da rein? Wir gehen da rein. Aber natürlich speichern, bevor irgendwas schief läuft. Es lädt. Alles. Pluto? Ah, die Völker muss ich jetzt hier sagen. Griechisch? Ist das jetzt hier Griechisch? Das. Ah, okay. Ah, okay, jetzt ist es hier ägyptisch. Osiris. Oh Gott, ich glaube, wir sind jetzt echt gleich bei den Göttern. Das war jetzt schon am Ende? Nergal. Ah, ist das so hell? Was zur Hölle? Was ist... Warum ist es hier so... Erinnert mich ein bisschen an... Assassin's Creed. Wow. Okay. Hallo Erde. Was zur Hölle? Sind wir hier im Garten Eden oder so? Wow. Wow. Milchstraße? Wer seid ihr? Hallo? Boah, ich will da gar nicht hin. Ich will da gar nicht... Oh.
And here you are. Allow me to introduce myself. As you have already gathered, I've been known by many names. Nergal to the Sumerians, Osiris to the Egyptians, Hades to the Greeks, and Pluto to the Romans. But the one constant through it all has been my title, God of the Underworld. And I've been watching you with curiosity, mortal, ever since your arrival. You're unlike the others, aren't you? And what is more, you carry a weapon that was never intended for mortals to wield, and you do it so brazenly. But there will be time for your reckoning later. First, as a reward for undoing the desecration of my obelisk, I will allow you to satisfy your curiosity.
Okay.
Ask what you
Das
will.
klingt gar nicht gut. Was ist deine Geschichte?
My story is many thousands of years long. You will need to be more specific. What do you wish to know?
Ja, Gott der Unterwelt. Natürlich ist er ein Gott.
It is a matter of perspective. God is a label I was given by you mortals, not one I gave myself. Your ancestors revered me because to them, my knowledge and technology made me incomprehensibly powerful, just as you might seem so to an insect. But despite all that, there are rules even I must obey.
Ja, okay. Mit Gott und Regeln, naja, bin ich jetzt nicht so dafür, aber wenn du das so sagst, warum seht ihr wie ein Mann aus und klingt auch so?
My kin and I all adopted this form long ago, so that we might better understand and communicate with your kind. In time, we grew fond of the sensory delights of the forms, desire, joy, ecstasy, even rage and sorrow, while an acquired taste can be addictive.
Boah. Will ich seine wahre Gestalt sehen? Ja.
No. Long ago I swore to Persephone that I would remain in this form for as long as we remained among your kind. I must honor that.
Na gut. Da ist die Frau zu eurer Linken.
This is my beloved.
Ja.
Like me, she has been known by many names. Ereshkigal to the Sumerians, Isis to the Egyptians, Persephone to the Greeks, and Proserpine to the Romans.
Habe ich mir gedacht.
Or perhaps you might know her as the goddess of springtime, the cycle of life and renewal.
Okay, es ist wirklich sie, die zu mir flüstert.
Your gaze lingers too long.
Aber lebt sie oder steht sie da einfach bloß rum? Und wer ist das rechts?
That is my servant. You would have met by the river, though she wears many faces and goes by many
Karon?
names. Kumutabal to the Sumerians, Kurti to the Egyptians, Charon to the Greeks, and Charon to the Romans. Her role is to ferry souls between the mortal world and this one, and to make their transition as seamless as possible. For that, she earned herself the infamous, if erroneous, moniker, the Ferryman. You will talk more later. For now, ask your
Das
questions.
heißt später. Kann er, sie sich an mich erinnern?
As you wish.
Was ist das hier? Das frage mich aber auch.
It has come to be known simply as the Underworld, and it exists because of a wager I made long ago.
Was? Durch eine Wette? Was war der Einsatz?
That is a long story, one that began over 3,000 years ago and continues to this day. You see, long ago my kin and I set out from our home on Elysium to search for other forms of life among the stars. We discovered your planet and witnessed your kind evolving from primates into something lawless and barbaric. You all but destroyed yourselves, your 2 short lives being extinguished by violence and ignorance and disease. Yet Proserpine saw raw potential in you, and persuaded the rest of us it would be squandered without our intervention and stewardship. So we revealed ourselves to your people in a place called Sumer. We offered guidance in agriculture, toolcraft, and law, and you called us gods. For a time you flourished, but soon you were too many for us to oversee. And as you spread from that cradle of civilization, we saw something disturbing. We had sown the seeds of dependency and confusion, and soon you returned to your old ways of violence and ignorance, this time in our name. My kin had seen enough, and gave up on your kind, condemning you as barbaric and chaotic, scarcely more than animals. We began preparations to return to Elysium, our home world, a utopia unspoilt by conflict and unimaginable in its beauty. But my Proserpine could not bear to abandon your kind without guidance, and knowing it would force the rest of us to leave her behind, she made an extraordinary sacrifice. She gave up her immortality to descend permanently to the ranks of humankind. And so she began her inescapable trajectory toward death. Horrified, I acted swiftly. I placed her in suspended animation in a deep frozen sleep to prevent age and sickness from claiming her. And then I pleaded with Proserpine's father, who the Romans called Jupiter, to bring her with us to Elysium. It was and is my hope that once there, we might one day learn to undo what she has done to herself. But he refused. I did everything I could to persuade him that he would not relent. He would rigidly uphold his final pronouncement. Humans were unworthy of ascension to Elysium, and no exceptions would be made. But seeing that I was aggrieved, he proposed a wager, the terms of which were as follows. If even one human city could prove itself capable of living without sin for a single year, then Proserpine and all of humanity would be permitted to join us in Elysium. My part would be to remain behind, the last of my kind, to watch over you without interfering, and to sit in silent judgment. And so my reward has been to languish here, enduring a 3,000-year winter, waiting for the day your kind proves itself worthy of her faith in you, so that I might take her with me to Elysium and unthaw my goddess of springtime. And here I am, after all this time, still waiting.
3000 Jahre, eine Stadt ohne Sünde. In dieser Stadt bin ich gerade. Und überall goldene Statuen. Fängt die Wette immer wieder von neu an? Oder 3000 Jahre ohne Sünde? Ich habe Dulli rausgelassen. Der ist 5 Meter gelaufen und hat gleich die erste Sünde begangen. Boah. Aber vielleicht bin ich jetzt darum hier, um das zu verhindern? Und dann leben sie wirklich 3000 Jahre hier. Boah, keine Ahnung. Wer sind eure Verwandten?
There were also gods who, like me, have been known by many names. But perhaps you knew them by their Roman names. Our leader Jupiter, as well as Neptune, Saturn, Juno, Minerva, Mars, Venus, Apollo, Diana, Vulcan, Vesta, Ceres, and of course, my beloved Persephone.
Okay. Viele Verwandte. Und wer hat diese Stadt gebaut? Das würde mich jetzt
As the
interessieren.
first wave of your kind arrived from Sumer, I had them build a city in their own fashion, so that they might be comfortable and recreate their lives here. I had them build the entrance as a vertical shaft leading to baths, to cleanse them of the sins of their former lives, and to prevent escape. I watched wave after wave of Sumerians arrive, and as their civilization declined over the centuries, they were replaced by Egyptians. Of course, believing themselves to be the superior civilization, the Egyptians promptly built over what had been built before, and made all the same mistakes. After another 1,000 years, the Greeks began to arrive, and then the Romans, and they all did the same thing. They built upon the underworlds of their predecessors, renamed their gods, and ensured their foundations were forgotten.
Ja, der Klassiker, Menschen halt. Immer diese Gier. Okay, also er sitzt hier schon ewig. Und es geht einfach nur um eine Wette. Okay, aber um seine Geliebte. Verstehe ich schon. Wie habt ihr entschieden, wer hierher kommt?
To ensure the wage was fair, it was important that my subjects were chosen at random. To this end, I had my servant distribute 1,000 tokens fashioned from silver, a rare element at the time, across all of Sumer. Whoever died while in possession of one of them would be located by my servant and ferried to this place, with no memory of how they
Okay,
arrived.
jetzt.
As the tokens were discovered, they were traded, smelted, and fashioned into trinkets, and eventually coins, spreading to Egypt like seeds on the wind. Later, when they spread to Greece, they would come to be known as Charon's obol, or as coins for the ferryman. Some placed coins in the mouths of their dead, hoping they would awaken here, though they had no way of knowing which coins were fashioned from the original tokens. In fact, almost all of the tokens are accounted for, only 2 remain. And so after this wave destroys itself, as it is destined to do, your kind will have squandered the last of its potential to ascend beyond this rock, and Persephone is along with it.
Völlig unentspannt. Wir haben die Menschen von der Unterwelt erfahren.
It is a regrettable story. One of the first men who came to this place was a king of Sumer, and a troublemaker. To be rid of him, I returned him to his people, on the condition that my servant erased his memories of this place. But the erasure did not take completely, and he told stories of this place as if describing memories of a dream. His tales were committed to writing, which came to be known as the Epic of Gilgamesh. His words were twisted and distorted over generations. Later, the Egyptians would adapt Sumer's stories of the underworld, making them wildly intricate and labyrinthine. Their Book of the Dead and Book of Gates bore less and less resemblance to this place in their priests' pursuit of profit. Then, when the Greeks began to arrive, they proved far more cunning, and in a series of incidents that will not be repeated, 5 of them escaped. A warrior named Heracles, 2 kings named Sisyphus and Theseus, a poet named Orpheus, and a Trojan named Aeneas. They each told embellished tales of this place, how to get here, and how to escape. And so from Sumer to Egypt, Greece to Rome, your kind has always told each other stories about this place, though each story contained only a seed of truth.
Okay, da hat jemand dir erzählt, dass Quitia, war's die? Dass da welche entkommen sind? Ich weiß gerade nicht, wer es war, aber ein paar sind entkommen. Ah, das sind die. Aber ein Körnchen Wahrheit ist immer dabei. Stellt euch vor, es ist wirklich so passiert. Und der sitzt immer noch da und wartet auf seine Wette. Okay, danke für deine Info. Bist du verantwortlich dafür?
That is merely the name your people have given to it, but yes, it is my doing.
Warum in Gold?
That is a story dating back to the very first wave. After the Sumerians finished building their city, the self-declared ruler threw a banquet to celebrate. Now this man was unmarried, and many women were vying to become his wife, a prestigious position of power and influence in a new world. Of all the women, 2 were particularly ambitious. Both were beautiful, and both arrived at the banquet wearing eye-catching dresses and painted faces, their hair woven in elaborate fashion. The first woman, recognizing that she would require an advantage to win the ruler's affection, draped herself in jewelry, ornate necklaces, bracelets, and rings fashioned from gold. Seeing this ostentatious display, the second woman grew envious, for she had no such jewelry at her disposal. She prayed aloud to any gods that would listen to cover her in gold, and when her prayer went unanswered, she took matters into her own hands. While the others indulged at the banquet, the second woman summoned the first for a discussion in a quiet place. She checked that nobody was watching, and pushed her rival from the top of the ziggurat, where she broke her neck on the rocks below. But I was watching, and I decided to answer her prayer. I took the golden bow left behind by Diana, and I shot that woman in the heart, covering her from head to toe in a layer of molten gold. And I left her to stand there, that she might serve as a grim reminder of what befalls those who sin in my domain. But that was not enough, for the entire city was tainted by her sin, and the wager could no longer be won. So I had no choice but to wipe the slate clean. I gilded them all, to make way for a new wave, and began the wager again. And to this day, each of them, and all who came after, line the halls of this city, inanimate but conscious, suspended in time with only their sight and hearing preserved, so they may bear witness to and lament the folly of your kind for eternity, the silent golden sentinels.
Ach, jetzt. Er muss halt diese 3000 oder wie viele Jahre da durchhalten, dass seine Geliebte da aufgeweckt wird, aber jeder sündigt und sündigt da einen auf. Und er will das halt immer als Warnung zeigen, aber ja, wie in dieser Stadt, na, ich glaube nicht an die goldene Regel. Boah, das sind halt schon viele Jahrtausende. Boah, das siehst ja, wie viele goldene Statuen da überhaupt schon rumstehen. Der wird hier für immer sitzen bleiben. Also seid ihr für das Erlöschen all dieser Leben verantwortlich.
I give your kind a second chance at life, as well as ample warning about my law. And when you disobey, and you always disobey, you force my hand, bringing terrible suffering upon yourselves. And so you ask if I am the one destroying your lives. And I say, No, you destroy yourselves. I am merely the means by which you do it.
Oh Gott. Woher kommen diese goldenen Bögen? Ja, von der Diana?
When my kin departed, they left behind many relics which I inherited. A consolation prize of sorts. The golden bow originally belonged to one of my kin, who the Romans called Diana. As my collection of golden statues grew, I chose the most ferocious among them and equipped them each with a duplicate of her bow, and tasked them with hunting down the Forsaken at my behest. They became known simply as Furies.
Was ist für euch eine Sünde? Ja, anscheinend war Selbstmord keine Sünde, Blasphemie anscheinend auch nicht.
I've always considered that the cornerstone of morality is the ability to determine right from wrong on one's own. No attempt to lay out rules like your Code of Hammurabi or your 12 Tables of the Roman Republic can ever cover all possible scenarios. This should come as no surprise to you, since the core principle has been expressed in many forms by many of your civilizations. The Egyptians made a rudimentary attempt with do to the doer to make him do. The Greeks refined it with avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. The Roman Stoics added treat your inferior as you would wish your superior to treat you. Even the so-called cultists hiding among you often say do unto others as you would have them do unto
Die
you.
modernsten.
It is the simplest of concepts, and each one of you is born with the faculties required to apply it to any situation. Yet none of the peoples who expressed this rule were able to uphold it. Curious, is it not?
Ja. Ja, ist schon, ja. Es scheint auch nicht so, als hättet ihr daran festgehalten. Ja, ne. Ja. Ist halt schwierig.
For you, perhaps.
Woher wisst ihr, wann jemand eine Sünde begeht?
I'm able to commune with all of the statues in the city. Their ears are my ears, and their eyes are my eyes.
Okay, der ist es. Ist Proserpina auf die gleiche Weise mit den Statuen verbunden? Ja, das weiß er doch gar nicht, oder? Soll ich das sagen? Ja, ich kann es nur sagen.
If she was still conscious, I suppose she could, but she's not. Why do you ask?
Ich weiß. Hast du gerade schon gesagt? Ohne Grund.
Then what an odd question.
Nur neugierig. Ich habe hier schreckliche Dinge gesehen, die für euch keine Sünden waren. Wie konntet ihr zulassen, dass solche Sachen geschehen?
Do you plan to speak in sweeping generalizations, or are you going to give me an example?
Ja, Ulpius, was ist Selbstmord? Ja.
I've seen no such thing, but in any case, taking one's own life is a self-directed act. It is not one that is done to others, however
So sieht er
be
das.
affected by it. Therefore, it cannot be said that one who commits suicide has done anything unto others.
Ja, wenn es der nächste Verwandte ist. Boah. Er ist ein Gott. Das macht mich immer noch fertig, dass ich hier gegenüber einem Gott stehe. Sehe ich nicht so. Wenn es nahe Verwandte sind, der macht einen Selbstmord, hä? Dann bist du davon auch betroffen.
Supposing you're right, then my law has been broken, and I should turn you all to gold immediately.
Okay, vielleicht nicht.
Is that what you want?
Natürlich nicht. Ach,
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
Betrug?
Ah, the tavern keeper, yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
Sie würde selbst nicht wollen, dass ihr jemand Schierling verkauft, oder?
I disagree. Having watched that tavern keeper, that is precisely what she would expect from others. She would view it as a game, one she intends to win.
Boah, na gut.
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
Weiß ich nicht.
You
Schuldknechtschaft.
speak of the moneylender. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
Es würde nicht wegen, ja, 30 Jahre.
And he would never have signed a contract pledging his labor for 30 years. All he did was enforce the terms of a contract signed voluntarily by others.
Internationalem Recht? Wie braucht dem Kerl jetzt hier nicht mit internationalem Recht?
Now tell me, what others sit?
Ja. Experimente.
The midwife in the palace, yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
Sie würde nicht wollen, dass man hier herumexperimentiert, nachdem sie vergoldet
The
wurde.
rule is do unto others, meaning other people. Those statues are something else now. Bloodless shadows, mere shapes of their
Dem kann man nicht reden, aber ich versuch's weiter.
They are forsaken. What happens to them is no concern of mine.
Ah, verstehe. Das scheint eine extrem wörtliche Auslegung der Regel zu sein. Ja, okay. Soll ich probieren?
Applying this rule always requires us to interpret the meaning of the words. The literal interpretation helps to minimize the ambiguities of your primitive language.
Wenn unsere Sprache voller Zweideutigkeit ist, macht das die Regel dann nicht von Natur aus subjektiv?
Supposing you're right and my law has been broken, and I should turn you all to
Nein, will ich
gold
nicht da.
immediately. Is that what you want?
Ich vergrab mich hier gerade. Ich habe recht und das wisst ihr. Ich weiß nicht. Soll ich sie sagen?
Now tell me, what other
Ja. Guck mal, dass die Leute sagen, die Götter seien grausam. Ich habe genug gehört. Dies zeigt lediglich, wie unverlässlich und unsachlich eure Moral ist. Ja, komm.
do you honestly think you could do better?
Nein, aber ja. Niemand kann absolut perfekte Entscheidungen darüber treffen. Ist ja zum Tyrann geworden.
I should strike you down for that.
Holzbogen. Und wenn ihr das tätet, würdet ihr meinen Standpunkt bestätigen. Komm.
Now, did you have any other questions before your reckoning?
Okay. Lasst uns über was anderes reden. Das war alles.
Good. Then now it is time for your reckoning. Only, it seems, something is wrong. It has
Okay.
long been within my power to see to the hearts of mortals and weigh their deeds in life. But when I peer into you, I see only a blank slate, as if you did not exist until you appeared in this city. How is this possible? Carol, where did you find this one?
I do not remember ferrying you. How did you come here?
Ich wirst du in deinem hohen Alter vergessen. Ich komme aus der Zukunft.
If that is true, then I sense the
Ja, das bist
intervention
du.
of someone powerful.
How did you come to be in this time, mortal? Who brought you here?
Komm,
I don't know.
er darf es nicht wissen. Ja, komm.
I do not know. My kin departed long ago, and Proserpine has slumbered for 3,000 years.
Unterstellung oder... Ach komm.
Tread lightly, mortal.
Oh Gott.
Enough of this. It seems I will need to put your reckoning on hold for now.
Ich lebe.
But answer this. Why have you come here? What is it you seek?
Ich will die goldene Regel aufheben. Ah, ja, hier. Ich möchte, dass ihr der goldenen Regel ein Ende setzt.
Your hubris is amusing, so I will allow you to make your case. But I warn you, if you anger me or waste my time with lies or wrong-headed arguments, you face death.
Okay, keine Lügen,
So,
nicht verärgern.
tell me, why should I put an end to the so-called golden rule?
Wenn ihr das aus Liebe macht, solltet ihr wissen, dass man euch nicht liebt. Oha. Wie könnt ihr von uns erwarten, frei von Sünde zu leben, wenn ihr es nicht einmal selbst schafft? Die goldene Regel korrumpiert die Stadt und sorgt dafür, dass ihr niemals den Einsatz gewinnt. Oh, shit. Ja.
How so? And be specific. You have made a grave allegation, and I expect you to back it up.
Okay. Oh, ich hab hier mehrere, oder?
He is a volatile and confused fellow, that one.
Oh, Aurelia?
I admit, I have grown disturbed watching her.
Maleolus?
His cruelty does seem to grow greater.
Jetzt.
Pathetic. You will need to do a lot better than that.
Oh Gott. Okay, wenn ihr es selber nicht schafft. Wahrscheinlich ist das obere richtig, aber hier.
That is a very serious
Ich
accusation.
weiß. Habt ihr nicht etwa... Oh. Okay. Hier.
I am well aware of the story told by the Greeks and Romans of my so-called abduction. It is entirely unfair. My love was dying, and I intervened the only way I could to save her life. What would you have done?
Aber hatte sie nicht beschlossen, dass sie sterben will? Ha.
It was an act of rebellion against the others. She knew I would have to act to save her, and I did because I loved her. I love her still. Accordingly, I reject your argument.
Hier eingesperrt.
These people were all dead when my servant found them. I gave them a second chance at life. Would you prefer to have simply ceased to exist?
Vielleicht.
Then you still have the option to end your life should you wish, and you are no worse off than if I had not intervened. Accordingly, I reject your argument.
Ist ja gut. Hier hunderte Menschen bestraft.
Every one of those people was guilty of failing to ensure their peers lived virtuously. They failed collectively, and so they were punished collectively. The Romans understand this, as did the Greeks before them.
Ist ja gut. Ja.
But I am a god, and you are a mortal. Why would you expect me to treat you as I treat my own kind? You are not a peer. You are not a respected equal.
Oh, Entschuldigung.
Let me ask you this. Do you treat insects as you wish to be treated? Do you care for their well-being as you would your fellow man? Do you ensure they have food and shelter and protection from predators? Do you give them rights?
Ja. Nein, machen wir natürlich nicht, aber ich...
Of course not, because that would be absurd, just as it would be absurd for me to treat your kind as equals.
Ja.
My love for her does not mean I am not superior, now that she is mortal.
Das klingt arrogant.
Bah! For a moment I thought you might have been building to a point. But I see now you are just a hubristic little
Ja,
creature.
doch. Denkt auch der, die... Ja, sie liebt dich nicht mehr, komm.
I see what you are doing. You are trying to undermine the one thing keeping me anchored here. You are playing a dangerous game.
Oh. Boah. Ich weiß es nicht. Sie sagt, ich soll es nicht sagen. Ach komm, ist jetzt auch egal.
Liar! How dare you come into my domain and attempt to
Ich
undermine
lasse
the
es jetzt
thing I
geschehen.
hold most sacred? You will make a fine statue.
Goldenen Bogen.
Do you really think you can wound me, a god, with that
Oh, Entschuldigung.
primitive weapon?
Brecht in mein Gemach ein, holt meine Krone. Ihr mögt unsterblich sein, aber eure Geliebte ist es nicht.
How dare you threaten her? This ends now.
Nicht gut.
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Ah, okay. Wo ist es? Ich habe die Krone und jetzt? Ciao. Ich habe ihre Krone. Ah, ich verstehe, glaube ich. Okay. Hi, bitte nicht schießen. Danke. Okay, es lädt. Vielleicht kann ich ihn jetzt... Es lädt. Okay, wie komme ich hier weg? Hier. Hui! Oh, ich muss hier weg. Ich muss hier weg. Hier runter. Vielleicht kann ich ihn jetzt bestechen, oder? Oh, Sentios, das tut mir leid. Okay, jetzt sind wir wieder hier. Das war ja eine Fahrt. Wieder zu ihm. Okay, Folge Sentius. Mit noch eine Aufgabe hier. Das weiß ich nicht. Um Hilfe anzufliegen. Dreh die Zeit zurück und zeige Pluton, dass du die Krone hast. Okay. Dann schauen wir mal. Ach.
Salve, friend.
Valerius. Komm, rette sie alle.
Alright.
Und lauf, mein Junge. So, dann denke ich. Ich weiß nicht. Gehen wir da nochmal hin? Ja, komm. Aber ich denke im nächsten Part. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Und wir treten den Göttern gleich nochmal gegenüber. Und diesmal habe ich Druckmittel. Und dem werde ich zeigen, den Kerl. Aber ehrlich gesagt, ich stand jetzt wirklich vor einem Gott. Scheiße. Na gut, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Und wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal. Bis dahin.
SillyConBread